It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast. Buckle up. I expect the same thing that happens to all artistic types to happen to me, which is in 10 years or something, all of this is going to become really relevant. Everyone's going to be like, oh, have you seen this show? It's like,
to all artistic types this happens. You're right.
right?
We all get
it takes
this.
everyone like...
Yeah.
What I was just listening to, I think it was David Sedaris on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and he was saying... it was something about overnight success. It was like... wow, it's not going to come to me. But it was a really... witty quote and observation about the fact that overnight success takes like 10 years or 15 years to happen or something like that. Made me laugh. I was sitting at work and I was just like, ha!
Oh.
David Sedaris. He was silly.
What's that?
That laugh is your ringtone, I bet.
What?
That laugh is probably your ringtone, I bet.
It should be. I'm so happy that I haven't gotten addicted to myself enough that I've made something I did my ringtone, because, jeez.
Hold on, did you turn on the fan?
That would be the end.
To dry the couch.
It's like you turned on the fan after I suggested that you
It
should turn on
wasn't
the
for
fan.
the smell. It was for the air.
You sure that's not going to leave a wet stain?
I'm sure.
I mean, the truth is, what can you do about the wet stain, Anthony?
Prevent it. It's better to prevent than repent.
Just by blow drying it right now?
Yeah.
Well, that can't be done.
It can't,
We're-
Anthony.
Is that what
getting
you were going to
famous
do? Were you
right
going to
now.
blow dry? Shoot, but it doesn't have to be blow dry.
No, I don't think so.
Why were you blow drying it at all then?
Because if it sits there, like if I just let it sit for hours, there's the potential that it could like get gross.
Gross.
It's not gonna sit there
Gross,
for hours.
Anthony.
Like, I meant like
Gross.
overnight, like
All right, this is where we
yeah.
talk to ourselves and we say, hang on, let's...
You know what? If it's not fine, we have that black cover thing for it.
Yeah, but I love the white.
I know. Oh, I know.
Is that better? Is that more? I think we did it. Okay. I think we did it. Check that thing, make sure. The funny part is I'll get all sat down. I'm like, all right, we're set up, we're ready, good to go. And then for the rest of the podcast, all I can think is, video's not recording. You didn't hit record. You didn't hit record. You didn't hit record. Because I just did one with my friend and former companion Seth Losser, and it was amazing.
Nice.
And the whole time I'm just like, the video's not recording. The video's not recording. The video, and I got over there and it was, and I was like, like, why? Why do I do that to myself? Why can't I just
relax.
let go?
It's just great. Now I have to follow frickin' Seth and his amazing podcast. Awesome. Seth's not frickin'.
Anthony, like the level of amazing that's about to happen.
Just keep working it up. I'm just gonna disappoint more hearts. This is great.
So sometimes I don't know where to start because there's more to you than even when I met you. Like you go farther back than that, but I don't know. how
That's
much.
true. I was indeed born prior to our first acquaintance. Yeah. Could I just be Russell Crowe for the rest of this interview?
I think you're going to be.
It's like we start from the start and then
I think
periodically go
I think-
back to the
I think right off the
beginning
bat,
and
I'm
then to
gonna-
the end.
I'm gonna make an editor. There are some people.
Is there a Russell Brand filter? Is that a thing?
There's not. A
Oh,
Russell
you said
Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Oh wait, Russell. Who's Russell Crowe? Gladiator?
Yeah.
Same guy.
Mm.
Russell Brand. If they just put them both in.
Russell Brand.
Yeah.
I totally not. Russell Brand.
I'm kind of in love with him right now. Like he's being and doing wonderful things.
No, he's so cool. He gets to be a rock star in his movie while he's freaking both. I can't do either of those things.
Wait, why?
He wears leather jeans, and he can wear leather jeans because he's motherfucking Russell Brand.
Why can't you wear leather jeans?
Maybe
Is
I
that just
can.
metaphor? What are
No,
you
he
not
needs
doing that
literal
you want to do?
leather jeans. He's not. That's not metaphorical. Those are
Maybe
his-
it was metaphor.
No, those are his goals. Leather pants.
Maybe
Maybe.
the podcast to me is me wearing leather jeans. It's me doing something that doesn't make any sense to me.
Heck yeah.
Like I'm interviewing people, and I can't think of anybody besides maybe my mission president that even likes talking to me, like, or has admitted such. So me being, the guide of this thing is stupid. Thus, this is me wearing leather pants and be like, I'm so important. Listen to my show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Blaylock wearing leather jeans. That is awesome. I love this.
But the point is, since that was just a metaphor, what is in your world that you're not doing that you dream of doing or would be doing if?
Man, I think that's an excellent question. I think if I did know the answer to that, I would definitely be pursuing it harder. Digging less deep into the metaphor, more on a surface level. Quite literally. I don't know if I even have the desire to wear leather jeans, leather pants.
But is it
Leather jeans probably isn't a thing. I don't think that's.
I don't think it is at all. Is it an image thing? Is it visual that you're not doing that you want to? Is it a personality thing? Is it a music thing? Like, are you just not distributing
Yeah, I think,
or creating or performing enough music? Like,
I don't know if any musician is ever really fully satisfied. I think there's always things that we look more into as to what we should be doing, what we could be doing, what we should have done. Just especially as far as writing goes. Like, I have a lot of tracks right now on the back burner too, where I'm just not completely happy with them, and so I think it turns into a bit of paralysis perfection, where you are waiting for every light on the street to be green before you finally go. But if you need to get to the store and you're not willing to leave until every light's green, you're going to be waiting there a while.
That is such a good analogy, like a good metaphor for that. Where
I'm pretty sure I ripped it off of somebody, so please don't.
I'm glad that you did, because I hadn't heard it yet. Just the idea that, like, for example, the documentary that I'm
Yes.
in the process of making. That's only gotten this far because I saw a green light and I saw beyond it 50 red lights, and I was like, oh well, and I would just move forward into the green light,
Yeah.
and then by the time I got to the next red light, at some point it would turn green, and I just keep moving forward. That's how I got here. Is like just having a little thought, having an instinct to reach out to somebody, to schedule an interview, to dump $1,000 into travel costs just to be like, oh, now the tickets are bought and the hotels are reserved. Like, you can't.
There's no.
I guess you
back
could.
at that point.
Yeah.
It's
So
cool.
it just
No
taking the little green
U-turns.
lights. But I like the idea that, like, it holds many artists back to know that if they move, that they can't take it all the way to fruition. That it's just going to be one light, and they're going to have to wait for the universe to open the next one, and that'll just stop them. They'll just stay where they are because they're like, I don't want to do that.
I think it's I think that's a common thing that a lot of us deal with. Currently, my time is being highly invested into converting my shed into a music space. But I mean, that's kind of how things always go. There's always one thing that's preventing you from putting forth the time to what your actual goal is, There's always one thing after another. But I mean, this one, I like to think that it actually is contributing to the process of becoming a...
Is there an argument that it's not? That you're just
it's
distracting
just
yourself from
it's just
things?
yeah, exactly what it would be. I mean, if you're going to crank out music, you got to be writing music.
Yeah.
Whereas my time isn't invested in writing music at this point. It's much more in creating a music space, which is not as conducive to attaining my goal as it would be to just be cranking out music instead. But it's still in the same.
Is the music
sphere.
space's intention to allow you to create a higher quality of music? Like, does it come down to...
I think that would be a byproduct. That wouldn't be the main thing. I mean, I'd like to use it as a rehearsal space for my own band, but in addition,
So
renting
you're
it
not
out
in
to
the
other
living room?
bands too, though. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
as much as I love using this living room, like we've got T-Rex heads and deer heads and original oil paintings that I got from the DI for $5. Acrylic. These weird, like miscolored, I don't like family words. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. What is that doing here? I don't know. So as much as I love this room, it's like I would love to use that shed out there as a space to rent out for other musicians as well. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to turn that and convert it into a space for
well, based on what you just said, me and my outside of the box thinking, have you ever thought about just like pursuing whatever means you would need to like be the leaseholder of like a multi-unit space, and then just working to actually lease out individual units to whatever bands, and so you're accomplishing the idea of the shed, but in a, how do I say it? It's almost like if I was a band and if I was looking for a place to rehearse and I got on KSL and some dude was just like, hey, you want to come rehearse in the shed in my backyard? Like, that would seem one way versus, you know, a space that's clearly been built
Designated
for
for
that
such.
and designated for that. It just feels a little more, I guess, professional. Feels a little bit more like, oh yeah, this is what we're supposed to be doing here. And I mean, you know, I have a friend, she was actually on 2 episodes ago, Kristen Taylor. She runs a studio, Underdog Studio, so it's like a recording studio, but it has enough, like, cause it's in this, just this wing of, like, this industrial complex, and so it has, like, a number of spaces, so she just soundproofed off several of the spaces and rents them out as, like, just studios for you to come in and you can record if you want, or you can just practice whatever you want to do, and based on that, she's able to, like, you know, make the rent and pay her own bills, and she does like sound engineering and a whole bunch of other fun. She has a band on the side and does all sorts of stuff, but she just runs that. Like, she just takes that upon herself to be the business end of that.
I think I'm picking up what you're laying down. So you're actually suggesting that, like, I bring in musicians and then I infringe my songs upon them to use my space. I'm like, you have to learn one of my songs and play it at every show. This is great.
No,
this is
but
gold.
that's
Why haven't I thought of
brilliant.
this?
I like how you take it,
we're
the
set.
extra space, where you're like, you know what? That's only going to matter if I'm getting my music out there more, so...
Every show you will play one of my songs. You will rehearse for free.
There's like a discounted monthly rate if it's like,
Exactly.
you gotta play one of my songs at your show. Oh, and you have to video record it. Oh, and you have to
Instagram,
post that on
I feed
Insta.
my house every day, and Twitter, my music every day too. Yeah. Realistically, I haven't considered an actual designated space like that. I think I'm gonna the shed run will be a trial and
Just
see
do
how
your
it
own
goes.
thing.
It'll be a trial and see how it goes with other bands. Seeing if this is a new thing people are interested in, because I think there's a lack of rehearsal spaces for bands in the Salt Lake Valley right now. So, if I like how it goes, then maybe it is something I'd
Let's
consider.
get bigger with it.
Yeah.
So, your band, Friendly Fellows, has a single on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all the fun places, called I Can. You released that a year ago, because you released it just before...
Not quite, but about 8 months ago, I think.
Or was it actually... I guess it was just after the show that I came up here and played. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was in the summer of last year.
And haven't released, that I know of, anything since.
Accurate.
Does one
Where's the
have an
disconnect?
impact on the other? Like, has the reception of the single stunted you, or did you, like you mentioned, just get distracted? Because I haven't seen the play numbers. I have no idea how well you're.
I definitely had a
Singles
bit of writer's block around that time.
Writer's block, dude. In my phone right now is like 5 demos that you sent me, and they're all great.
You're so.
And I Can's one of them. But like,
Thank you so
what do you
much.
mean writer's block?
Well, it's kind of like I talked about, I'm sure, too, like paralysis perfection. I'll
The
hear
green
these
light thing?
tracks
Like,
and
you
I'm
just
It's
can't-
not enough. Like, this needs to be changed before I actually authentically record this track instead of just my bedroom demos.
Well, then, what about I Can is so great that you put it out? I think it's a great track, and I'm even impressed at the production of it. Like, it sounds really well done, mastered, mixed, everything. What about it was good enough that you were like, yep, we're putting it out there?
Actually, part of that is to, when it came to the mixing, on that one I wanted to give this guy, Dave Zimmerman, of Noisebox Studios, I should get some kind of like promotional thing here.
Just did. You just picked that name up. Right.
And so I wanted to give him a shot and see how he did it on his mixing, and so I took that track to him because I was like, this one would be fine to mix. I think it's like, me and my buddy sat down and we just kind of cranked out some recording of it. And so that was very much just wanting to see his...
That was like a
ability
one
to
take?
record.
You just like, you literally said you just went in and quote unquote cranked it out? Like,
Yeah, I mean, we just got together one day and we just recorded it. So
are you that like vocally good? Like, even the falsetto is, like, flawless. Did he...
The vocal range, well, that one's kind of in my vocal range. Like, I don't know, when I do songs that are a little bit more out of my vocal range, I become a cheater and I do retakes, but, like, sue me? I don't know, everybody does. So, that one kind of came together relatively well, though.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
This next album that I'm doing, I'm trying to challenge myself to just take the first take.
Dang.
The first take that's, like...
That's hardcore.
Like, fine. Like, not push myself to, like, just get a perfect take and stuff. So, I'm hoping it'll come out sounding, just kind of garage. Like, not bad.
Yeah.
It sounds good, but it's just not, like... And plus, like, the last one, the bass guitar on it is just a regular guitar run through an octave pedal. So I can get, like,
wow.
the doom.
Did not
This
know
one
that.
is an actual, like, active pickup bass guitar.
Mm.
So the bass tone's, like, so round and sweet and awesome on this one.
Tasteful.
And I just play them with different things. Like, the last one, I did the whole thing in GarageBand, so I used, like, a little MIDI keyboard to do the drums. Just do that. And then for, I guess, convenience sake, because I just didn't... In my head, I'm like, what's, like, point A to point B? What's the fastest way to do this? And I was like, well, why don't I put the kick and drums, or the kick and snare on one track. I'll do the hi-hat and cymbals on another track. And then if I need to put in any fills with toms, I can just do another track of that. So what you're hearing is me mixing the sound well enough so that, like, the snare is, like, popping. So it's kind of rising above the music, and it's
Right.
creating the tempo and the pace. But the kick drum is also kind of hitting the lower end and doing its business. And as a result, it totally sounds like digital drums because snare doesn't exist on the same frequency lengths as kick, so you can't really put it on the same track. So this album, I'm like, I'm going to take the time. I'm going to put
Sick.
every single drum piece on a different track so I can really, like, EQ it better. So just the
Nice.
demos, which I'll play one of them for you after the
Okay.
podcast, like, just night and day. I'm like, uh-oh, this one might actually sound like an album. It might sound like a real band did this.
Right on.
Anywho, but yeah, I'm just gonna try to, and plus this one's a lot grittier. Like there's a lot of like.
Is Dark Adam coming out of his cage? Is that what
Well, I mean, frankly, half of the songs on this album were written like 7 or 8 years ago.
Dude,
when
that's cool that you're
like
using
wasn't
this.
involved in the church and was
Excellent.
just hating life and stuff. Technically speaking, this album, half of this album was already released because I released this EP called Panic Button, like 2013 or something. And I ended up pulling it down after, I don't know, 6 months or something like that because it was just awful. It was like, I had like a full-size electronic drum kit, like one of those Roland V-Tour kits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had one of those iRigs where you just plug a guitar into your iPad and off you go. So I ran an instrument cable from the headphone output of the module to the iRig and then just directly into the thing. So all the drums are on one track.
Yeah.
So like EQ was impossible.
Yeah.
Although when you put like a set of headphones on playing an electronic drum kit, it doesn't sound awful. That does not translate to the recording platform, and it just sounded hissy and bitey, and it was awful. I did the bass guitar through a small practice guitar amp, so it just sounds like ratty and sounds like President's United States of America or something. Like it was just awful. So I took it down, and now I'm basically redoing those songs and then adding some other ones. So it's just, I don't know, like there's a song called Fucking Done, which I wrote actually about being done with this particular band that I was in. And so just the whole chorus is just like, fuck this band, I'm fucking done with everyone. Like it's that kind of album where it's just gonna be a lot more.
Dang.
Ugh. There's a song called Follow the Bleeder
Dude.
that I wrote about my frustrations with like the church and stuff, with Mormonism and stuff, where like in my mind people weren't following Jesus, they were following, these people around them
Cultural aspect.
that claimed to be living for Jesus. And so I turned it into a metaphor of like, follow the bleeder, follow this person who's like, that like they're the ones that are bleeding. Jesus didn't bleed, they're bleeding. We're going to follow them. So it's a song like that. So it's just going to be it's gonna be a darker album.
Yeah.
And I'm renaming it Panic because I've just been thinking like Panic Button is the dumbest name for an album. Like the reason I did it was a panic button on a car key.
Yeah.
Like it was just, I was sitting somewhere and I just had it and looked down and I was like, the essence of that, the essence of what a panic button does to a car, I was like, that was what I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to name an album that. And so I didn't edit myself. I was like, let's just call it Panic Button. I'm like,
For the
that's a
record,
stupid
I
name.
actually really like Panic Button.
Do you?
So that's fine if you want to just talk
I'm just gonna
trash
call
on
it
Panic
Panic.
Button more.
I mean, plus, part of the reason I changed it is, and I was this close to getting all Green Day on this thing and releasing multiple records that are all sort of like intertwined, like Una Dos Tres,
Right.
whatever. I shortened the name to Panic, and that made me think of the Radiohead lyric, the Panic, the Vomit. God loves his children from Paranoid Android.
Okay.
And so then I was like, I'm gonna make Panic, and then I'm gonna make Vomit. Like the next record's gonna be called Vomit, and so one of them is the Panic, the other is the
Vomit
Vomit.
Button.
And then I thought, there's no way you get away with like calling a record Vomit. People will be like,
Nah.
I don't get it. This is stupid. So I'm
Put
like,
your leather
"No, we're
jeans
gonna
on,
do it."
dude. Who cares? Whatever.
Plus, I'm like,
There's still no such thing as
I
leather
hope when
jeans.
this
I don't
thing's
like
out of me,
it.
I hope I'm kind of done with being negative for a while. I feel like it's gonna be kind of hard to make this album and put it out there, and for like people that are close to me that know that I'm active in the church and that know that I seek holiness, at least on some level, are just gonna be like, why are you using these words? You're a bad person or whatever. I'll be like, it was a sorry. You know,
Do you see
I'm just
these
gonna
leather
have to like,
jeans?
huh?
Do you see these leather jeans? Look like a good fit. I don't
You're
know.
gonna make me write a song called "Look at My Leather Jeans."
I don't know, dude.
Other jeans.
The freaking angsty music is just the best, man. It's just my favorite to write.
I agree with you,
I get
but
so much more satisfaction out of it.
I don't think
Not
that there's
other
any
people's
place
always,
for it
but
in the
like-
industry right now, which is depressing. It means we're just
Yeah.
making things for our own amusement and like 10 people that are going to know about it and get it. Which again, it's going to be, I don't know, Van Gogh or somebody. Which I feel like by the time we're dead,
cut
people
off
are going to
our
be
ears,
like,
let's get
have you
that.
heard this album? It's like, yeah, who cares?
My plan is to actually just like, I'm gonna fake my death, and then because people will be like, hey, this guy died, listen to his music, they'll start listening to it. And then I'll go live in a cave, and I'll find Tupac, and I'll find Elvis Presley, and we'll all just be releasing music.
Can you imagine if they're all just sitting in a cave? They're
They
just
are,
like,
that's what they're
this is
doing.
what it took. This is what it took for us to blow up.
And the Friendly Fellows will be on the map, and I'll be like, hey guys, I'm not dead. And they'll be like, oh.
And then they'll be mad,
Who's
and
Friendly
then it'll be a whole...
Yeah.
Just,
I'll rat out Tupac, and the pressure will be
you're
off.
like, but they're right there! And they're just like hiding. They're like, no one's finding us.
Do rap.
We're going to stay at the top of the charts. Oh my goodness. So, you're Utah, born and bred.
Indeed.
How's that treated you?
Born in Kearns, the hood of Utah, which
Is
is
it? I don't know anything about
it,
Utah.
pretty much. I mean, a bunch of. Well, I'm not gonna actually say races because saying a race would make it sound like hood or this type of race, and that's not politically correct, I guess. But Kearns, I still live right next to Kearns. I've lived like within a 5-mile radius of this area my entire life. So yeah, I mean, growing up here, I didn't have like too many cultural influences or anything. I mean, of course, it's you know you grow up in Utah and you get the whole LDS culture experience thing. I don't feel like mine was too severe though, because I was raised to like not be a frick like a lot of like the LDS culture is, because there's a lot of fricks in the LDS culture. Though the LDS religion is not a frick, but so yeah, I don't know. Like I don't have a particularly exciting.
Do you
upbringing.
think
It was very average?
the whole 5-mile radius your entire life has existed in thing is in and of itself one of these red lights? Do you think that stands in your way at all from like branching out or from doing things or
Technically-
putting yourself out there? Like,
Yeah, I would say so, just because like where I'm at is in a really good spot right now. I'm renting this house out to people. I'm paying very little for my rent, and so financially, it's like if I were to just forsake finances and be like, forget about money, I'm gonna chase my dream. But I'm like, sometimes I gotta like money. Like sometimes it's a nice thing to have. So I do take that into note. But I mean, definitely, if I were to go be a hermit and just live in a shack or something, like a cave, then I would have nothing better to do except for music. So
weird question. Maybe not a weird question. Money.
let's get weird.
Is it a nice thing to have or is it a nice thing to spend? Which do you think you actually feel about it?
I feel like somebody's actually about to answer for me.
Do it, do it.
No, I think it's just that's a very like personal. Like it's not like there's one answer. I
Yeah.
think Anthony likes having money. Like I mean he's because he likes spending money smart. And so it feels good to buy things when it's like I know I got the best deal on this you could possibly get. And then he's like and that's what feels good, but it also the other side of that is like knowing that like because you do that, you get you have more money. Like you have it and then you can spend it smart and then yeah, he's like the best person I know at spending money smart.
I feel like I have anyone listening to this that, you know, is a part of my upbringing, just try not to be triggered by this statement or don't take this personally. I feel like I've been put down a lot in my life so that I don't think that I have tremendous intelligence or that I do intelligent things because I've been talked to in such ways that I just don't think I'm smart. And frankly, that's also why the podcast is weird for me because I just feel like the least person in any room all the time. That's how I feel.
Dude, this is so cool that you're doing that. Sorry, this is like so admirable.
I'm just glad the ball's
In a
rolling.
word,
And at this point, all I need to do is keep going. Like, if I had to start it again, it wouldn't happen. And P.S. Thank you, Chelsea Reader, for starting this with me a long time ago. And then
Chelsea and I go way back.
when you left, it forced me to do this out of my own. But my point in saying that is, I have a point in saying that. Where was I going with the whole?
I was actually about to.
We were talking about spending of money. Because of that, I don't have confidence in finding good deals. And it makes me basically just buy things from where you buy them from. Like my car, I just went into I got like when I had like $1,000 from a bonus at work, and I was like, that's probably enough for a down payment, right? And so I just downloaded on my iPhone the CarMax app, and I just started swiping. Found a CRV with decent miles. I'm like, saved it, went in and saw it 3 or 4 days later, drove off with it. It is the car that is, well, it's not here, but it's the car that I have. I didn't haggle. Like, I was going in with a deposit. I'm like, I have bad credit. Find me a lender. And they did, and off I went. So I feel like most of the thing, including this, the iMac thing, like, I'm just going to walk into an Apple store with $1,000 in tax and be like,
I won't let you.
I need that. Why? Because that's where you buy it. You don't buy it from, like, Craigslist. You don't buy it from a place where, you know, something may be wrong with it and you might have just gotten whatever. If I buy it from there, at least I've got the protection of the fact that they, you know, want to. So, because of that, I'm hearing what you're saying.
It's a skill.
And
it's an insane skill. I do not have it either. Like I'll go with Anthony places to pick things up, and he'll be like, "What do you think about this thing?" And I'm just like,
Looks good to me.
What do I think about it? Like, I don't know. But then he has like all these things that he looks for and all these. It's a skill. It's like my family. It's not about it's not about like not feeling confident enough to do it. It's more so just that was not. My family was not financially responsible for the majority of my life. My parents learned that later in life, how to be financially responsible. Beautiful moment that just happened.
Yes, financially responsible.
Yeah. So like I wasn't, that wasn't ingrained into me. But Anthony's family, like I feel like your mom has that skill too. Like
probably, I don't know. They're kind of done with their money now.
Well,
since I got wealthy.
Yeah, now I'm talking about as you were growing up. I imagine that your mom was like that as well.
Yeah,
but then that begs the question.
Yeah. Do
you feel like your current habit of acquiring money and enjoying the acquirement of and sustaining of money, do you think that might like grow to the point that you are officially wealthy? Like maybe have, 6 figures in the bank, something like that, and it would cause you to... Would your habits change at that point? You think you just start making it rain?
I asked him that question like 2 days ago.
Yeah. And I can already see that stuff happening now. I'm like, I do have money. I am going to treat myself. I am going to get the Blizzard today.
So here's the weird question then.
I'm going to get the Blizzard from Iceberg Cream. Ice cream. Ice Dairy King.
Dairy Queen.
Ice.
Say it. Dairy Queen.
Ice Queen.
Dairy Queen.
Dairy King.
DQ.
So I don't make like a lot of money, but I make decent money. But I spend oftentimes like I make a lot of money.
Excess. It's the American way.
Well, I'm going to defend that. I'm not
Consumerism.
sure
I
that
walked
it's.
into a
I'm
Walmart
not.
today.
I'm not sure that it's excess or consumerism. I think what's happening is like, I've been shown by like ex-girlfriends or I don't know, friends or bandmates or whatever. I've been shown lifestyles that I just didn't know anything about when I was growing up. Like for example, sushi restaurants.
Delicious.
Whole life knew nothing about it.
Me too.
Ex-girlfriend got me into it, and now I love me some sushi. Problem with that is I can go into a sushi restaurant by myself and walk out having paid like $100 for a really good meal. That's not frequent. I mean, that's like probably the most baller sushi meal I've ever bought. But the point is, like, just for me to walk into a sushi place and even just drop like $50 or $60 on like a nice sushi meal isn't like super uncommon. I'd probably do that maybe like once a month, once every couple of months as it sits right now. I was going to say I could arguably afford that. The truth is that's pretty much outside of the range of, you know, what maybe I ought to be doing. I don't like using words like should, but if somebody else had my money and was budgeting it, they would not see that a single meal would budget out to $60. But the reason why I do that is because having been introduced to those lifestyles, I like to prance around in that lifestyle. And I'm also like weirdly influenced by the idea that kind of the law of attraction, where like if you show the universe that you want to live this way, the universe will help you figure out a way to live this way. So it's kind of my way of sending a postcard to the universe and be like, hey, I'm a sushi guy, just so you know. So if you want to just like throw me sushi opportunities to make money so the sushi stuff works, I'm good with that. Yes. And so far, I mean, outside of having a good job where as of right now I can do that and still, you know, make rent and stuff.
And from the perspective of law of attraction, I think that's exactly accurate. If you're picking up handfuls of dollars, but you're not willing to let them go to pick up more dollars, you don't have room in your hand to pick up more dollar bills.
I've been getting so fascinated listening on podcasts to certain people that are wealthy that when people ask them like, oh, what's the secret? They're like, the secret is don't grub money. Don't sit on it. Don't hold on to it. Like, we give to charities as much as we can, not just because we want to feel great about ourselves, although we do. It's because we've seen through, you know, the living of life that, like, money's not real. And money will rot. It'll just sit there and go away. So money is your receipt of money is an immediate opportunity to do something.
Yeah.
So just do it. And don't bother, like... hoping that money is still there tomorrow. And I think that feeds in also to some of my decisions where it's just like, all right, like this trip, for example. I had like limited funds to do this. Like when I was sitting at the counter with the lady like renting the car and stuff, I was like, what's that deposit again? I'm like, okay, that should probably work. And I mean, you know, the budget for the trip is loose, and if things got a little bananas, I think I could probably handle it. But my hope is to get home with a couple $100 in the bank. So by the time I get to payday, like it'll all balance out and I can just sort of settle back into regular life. I feel like most people would look at what I'm doing and say, well, that's stupid. Because what you're doing is you're dumping money into something that frankly nobody's probably going to care about or give you money back for. And you're stressing yourself out doing it and, you know, 100 other reasons why it's a stupid idea. And I think I do that across the board. I think when I have an idea, I get so obsessed about it that I just start figuring out what dice I even have within my reach to roll and to try to like make something work or make it happen.
The majority of people would view it exactly like you just said, and that's, you know, look at the majority though. Where are the majority of the people in the world? They're all stuck in the same place, whereas the top 10% of the people are controlling essentially like 80% of the money, you know, in all those businesses. So
Louis C.K. calls those people non-contributing product sponge cunts. It's my favorite thing he's ever said.
Wait, who?
Louis C.K., the guy that got in trouble for...
No, that's Louis.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis, yeah, Lewis.
Different guy.
Louis C.K. the comedian.
Vastly different human being.
Give me
I
a
love
second.
Louis C.K. Can't put him in the same
Alternate
arena
reality.
as
Vastly
C.S.
different.
Lewis. Wow. My apologies to anybody who just twitched when I said the C word. But in the context of that statement, I think it's fairly said because I like the setup of the statement that it's non-contributing product sponge. Like we're talking about people who this is consumerism, where it's just like, why isn't better stuff on Netflix? Why isn't my Grubhub meal here yet? Why isn't like just people that are serve me, feed me, but they're not creating. They're not giving something back out into this sphere of service, of entertainment, of art, of whatever.
I think that is a great point.
And I kind of think, to me, in a really, I guess maybe lazy way, that's what the podcast is to me, because it's really not terribly hard for me to do as far as the editing, as far as just posting it and stuff. But I hope it pays forward a service of interesting conversations, of getting to know people, and of maybe hearing like just a quote or something that somebody brings up that, you know, I mean, when I sit at work and I'm just typing away my data entry job and I'm listening to podcasts, the value I get out of it, outside of just maybe funny, you know, comedians just being funny or whatever, is every now and again, just based on the organic nature of the conversation, some factoid or a quote or a reference to a book or another song or something will come up, and it really moves me to the point that I feel myself kind of metaphysically changing based on the point that was just made, and my perspective starts to shift, and that's the value of podcasting to me. So I hope, even though based on what I said before about my own opinion of myself, that I don't possess the perspective to think that I'm capable of doing what I just said, but it's the goal, which is actually kind of dumb now that I say it out loud.
But it's you do look back on those people though who are kind of just hoarding it all to themselves and giving nothing to the universe, and it's like, we're not to say that they don't have good lives, but like regardless of how much money you end up dying with, not to say there's anything wrong with giving it to your grandkids or inheritances like that,
which is
like,
where I think most
what's it gonna
American
matter?
wealth comes from. It's handed down, like it's the Carnegies or the Rockefellers or wherever that money's coming from. Yeah.
But I mean, what does any of that matter? Like, if you feel like you didn't achieve the things you wanted to in your life. So I mean,
So true.
not at all that I think this would fall flat for you, but even if it did, how cool is it going to be for you to just say like, I did that, dude?
Yeah.
I just like woke up and I was like, I'm just going to cruise the country. I'm going to make a video about myself. I'm going to throw these awesome podcasts, and this is a freaking adventure. Like,
As gross as it
you hold
is,
that forever.
there's like a decent chunk of my motivation for making the documentary that I've thought like a filmmaker for years, but I've never produced anything that was great enough that I could call myself a filmmaker.
Dang.
But once this thing's in the bucket, I can finally be like,
Yeah,
I'm a
heck
filmmaker.
yeah.
I directed that. Yeah,
I'll make you a
cinematography.
patch.
I did that.
I'll
Yeah,
make you a pin.
which is so egocentric, but at the same time, I also think if I can just get out of my own head about the fact that I can't have a conversation with somebody where I'd like to say, as a filmmaker, and talk about something, and then I can just comfortably do that, I feel like it'll just let my brain think about other things. And I can finally create in other spaces that might benefit people, versus just being completely stuck on the idea that I can't call myself a filmmaker because I haven't made a film. So now I'll just have like one. There it is. I made a film. If it didn't move you, fine. It's still a film. Still says directed by me at the end.
Suck it, Sundance.
Suck it! Can you imagine? That's not. I was actually.
That's just
I
gonna be at the end of your
daydreamed too
video,
much.
Suck it, Sundance.
I was driving home from the. Actually, I think I was. Here's what I think I was doing. I drove drove to the hotel from the Seth podcast. Had some food with me. Sat down on the bed. Was getting the food going. Put on Bob Saget. What's it called? It Ain't Right. His HBO comedy special.
He's like a sailor mouth.
Oh yeah, it's
That's so
incredible. I'm
hilarious.
such a
Full
fan.
House.
And I'm just
So
listening to
funny.
him talk and stuff, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun if I finished this film and I throw it up on YouTube, because I thought about starting a website and charging people like rental fees or something like that. I'm like, don't be stupid. Nobody actually wants to see this thing. Just put it out there. So I was like, I'll put it on YouTube. Wouldn't it be fun if, like, within 6 months of doing that, I get an email from somebody that's just like, hey, saw your movie. I think it's really good. If I were you, here's what I would do. Pull it off YouTube right now. I'll help you submit it to Sundance. Like, that
That would be cool.
would make my life.
Yeah, dude.
Problem is, I don't It's like in my daydreamy head, I'm like, ooh, it's fun to tickle myself with thoughts like that. But existentially, I'm like, no, that wouldn't happen. But it's fun to. That's where most of my weird ideas come from. I just daydream
But I mean,
until
it has to
the
start,
daydream becomes
somewhere.
sane.
It has to start to give you some type of motive, some type of moving action to
Yeah.
push towards something. So, I mean, dude, daydream. Freaking daydream.
All the time. All the time. So, you were raised in Kern?
Kearns.
Kearns.
No, it's just not even.
Kearns.
It sounds like probably not even worth
Um,
mentioning. So, which is-
how early did music? I mean, I imagine it hit you as early as like 2 or something, but you getting involved in it, singing, playing an instrument.
Accurate. It probably hit me when I was like 3, actually, to
Yeah.
correct you. I would be like, Mom, turn on the rock music, and she would turn country music on, because I thought country music was rock music.
You did?
The Naomi would probably like drop kick my 3-year-old self down a flight of stairs, but whatever.
Wow.
And so, yeah, then my stepdad came into the picture. He did a lot of like AC/DC and Van Halen, those classic rockers, and that's like. And then I met one of my younger best buddies, Matt. And he was super into the same type of music, and so that's kind of when it became like my thing. I became that kid who would wear like ripped up jeans and like Van Halen band shirts that were stupidly cheesy from 1980, and like have this weirdo afro that like nobody else had, but it was cool.
Seen
It was,
pictures,
like,
it's
an extra
awesome.
curly afro, less like white boy afro, more like, Jamaican afro. I don't freaking know, dude.
Jamaican. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then we.
I've never seen a Jamaican afro, just the dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you
I wonder. I mean, they're black, so you imagine that afro is one step of it.
Yeah.
Continue.
That.
So music, you were into.
Yeah,
I can't.
and then,
Can you listen to like AC/DC albums?
now?
Yeah.
No. I can't. I don't listen to classic rock anymore. It's all I
Oh,
listened to
it's-
from 3rd grade to 10th
Oh,
grade.
okay. But I mean, could you? Did you enjoy them? Like, because I enjoy their bigger songs, and maybe it's just because radio beat it into my head. I don't know,
Maybe.
but like albums, it just kind of all sounds the same.
It does. They have a very consistent sound. But it was for me, and I liked it, and it made me feel good.
But Van Halen, like I just probably for the first time in my life last week listened to Van Halen 1 front to back.
Oh,
And I was like,
yeah?
oh, I get it. Because I've heard people like talk about rock stars, musicians, and stuff on podcasts or interviews, whatever, talk about being young and wearing the tape out. And I was just like, it's that good? And then I listened to it front to back and thought, I mean, maybe not now. I guess I could probably continue to listen to it front to back. But I could see being a young kid and being like, what? Especially at the time, who described it? I think,
Kristen Stewart.
that would be hilarious. It
Reese
was, I
Witherspoon.
think it was Chris Shiflett, and he was talking to, I think he was talking to Butch Walker. If you know much about like producers or he works. Anyway, I think he was saying that the Van Halen 1 album to him sounded like hair metal in space, and I was like, that's an interesting way to describe
Nice.
it. And I listened to it, and I thought,
Yeah.
in almost a Pink Floydy way, they were using like effects and different things in a way
Right.
that just didn't exist. Like Guns N' Roses was kind of like that, the sound of that, and they transcended that in a really weird way. And then come to find out that, you know, with like Jump or different singles later on, like, you know, Eddie's a musician
Yeah, dude.
that just happened to, you know, most of the time play guitar, but he's
Yeah,
like a
Definitely.
next leveler. I need to listen to. What was the next? I guess is it Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Hot for Teacher? Like, do you know the order of them?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I gotta go back and listen to each album and see if they're like
Yeah,
progressively that good.
that would be.
Anywho, so you were
Yeah, super into music growing up my whole life. And then like I think it was like 6th grade maybe, and I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna be a freaking rock star. That's what I
why?
want to do. I don't know. I don't
Did
freaking
you
know.
see a music video? Was there had to have been a
That would-
moment
that'd
where
be
you
really
saw
cool if I knew
it
that.
and were like, yes, that.
It'd be cool if I knew that. I think I started learning guitar when I was 11 years old, just like 90% of white boys in the United States. Mom's like, you gotta learn an instrument. What's it gonna be? Mom, it'd be cool. Guitar. That makes me cool. Whatever. So, started learning that, and I think that's definitely when I became like, this is what I want to do, man. I want to do this. So, I remember going into 7th grade too, and my counselor sits me down and she's like, so what do you want to do for a career? What are you thinking about? And I was like, I want to be a musician. And she's like, oh, that's really cool. But have you thought about doing something a little more realistic? Realistic. Yeah, I was just trailing off my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess that's not a realistic thing to do.
I think
I was
Chris
like,
and
sure,
Bush
I'll
were
be a
talking
pilot.
about that exact thing, and I think Chris was the one that was just like, isn't it ridiculous to think about somebody saying that to a young kid when there are hundreds of successful bands in this world, probably thousands. Like, it is realistic. Many people do this, like, constantly.
And it depends on your definition of success, of course, but I mean, my definition of success as a musician would be making a meager amount permitting me to, like, eat and, like, live. If I could make enough to do that stuff and just, like, be a musician, it'd be so cool. My life would be complete. I'd be good. I'd be down for it.
I feel like the rough part is, like, just being a fan of yours. I feel like you're already there, and I feel like
Stop.
not to mean that you already are currently living that. What I mean is that I think the level of your talent and the level of opportunity is already actually within your reach. And I think you struggle in the same place that I struggle in, which is how do I... It's almost like touring bands have access to information. They have access to an agent or a manager or somebody. You have a visitor. And they came to your front door, which is a little funny.
Even you know that.
Yeah, that's a
Classic.
girl. I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's this girl.
Let's talk to me.
We should.
Hey.
We should go back to our other
Yeah.
conversation about the fact
This was-
that although although it's totally within my personality to develop crushes,
Uh-huh.
like I'm always surprised at like where they come from and how quickly
I'm the coolest.
it happens.
We're waiting. Okay.
She's like, I hear you on the other side of the door.
She's like,
Why don't you come to the door and talk to me?
You're the worst.
No, let's not talk about the crush thing. So I met you in connection with Anthony,
Yes.
but that also then sort of like filed you in like a groupie category that I know isn't real, but it's just the only thing I know about you. Like
I was
what?
called a bandy the other day. And I was like, what? And she's like, is that not what they're called? I was like, oh no, what? And then another guy was like, I think you mean groupie. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. Just a band. Yeah, no, I am also an individual.
Yeah, with your own
with my own life and stuff.
thing.
So I'm totally down.
I mean,
with
you
it.
seem-
You can see if it's
I
Denim.
guess the way that you put together
Blue.
is intentional and it has like kind of an artisticness to it. I think there's like
It's the denim on denim. It is a statement.
it is a statement.
I know.
So there's creativity
Thank you.
within you. How does that exhibit itself
Okay,
in the world?
you're right. Let's talk about me.
All of it.
So I was a theater major in college.
That's so good.
I did
Which
that.
means you did everything.
I did everything.
You acted, you
Yeah.
directed.
So
you
I freaking love directing.
sets.
That's my
Yeah?
like. I'm definitely more skilled director than I am actor, even though I love acting is how it started. Well, really, music is how it started. I was in like choir. I did music stuff from second grade to senior year. Like I did music my whole school career. I also, my family listened. Like there was never a silent moment in my house. Like we're cleaning, there's gonna be music blaring. Like we're working, there's gonna be music blaring. We're in the car, there's music blaring. Like I grew up listening to all different kinds of music. Super exposed to music. So now like I remember. Because for the longest, it was just like, this is what I was given, and then I remember like the moment where I found a song myself, and I was like, this is mine, like I found this, and then from then, I was in the 5th grade, and then from then it was just like, yeah, I am that person, but like I did kindergarten, I did a lip sync competition, to the song.
Okay.
Any man of mine, you better walk the line.
You have a Shania vibe too.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So I had like a little cowgirl hat, and I had a little mini skirt that my mom bedazzled, and cowgirl boots, cowboy boots, and I had a little dance, and I choreographed it myself. And my brother is 6 years older than me, and he is a big nerd, like a big dork, and he has like his like dorky little group of friends, and they all came to my show, to my little. I won first place. But yeah,
I feel like that's
so
the
good.
story of your life.
Yeah.
Have you just always been winning everywhere
No,
you go?
no.
Like,
So I don't win things ever. My
No?
joke, no, never. My joke is like I've never won bingo. Never won bingo. People are like when at school when it's like yeah bingo, like look at those prizes. They have like little prize box, you know, and I'm like frick that. I'm not. Nobody's giving me a dang prize. I'm just gonna sit here and.
I love how your one example of not winning is a game of chance. Like just a random game. You're like, see, I didn't win there.
But what are the odds? I'm 22 and I will never win bingo. 22 years of life, I've never won bingo.
But let's talk about the winning that has happened here. I'm guessing you probably don't open a lot of your own doors, right? Right? Out in public. I'm guessing you've gotten some free drinks in your life, right?
Yeah.
Right?
But that's not a competition. It's not like they're choosing who to open the door for. They're not,
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
they're not like.
If I look at a girl,
We're not standing in a line and they're going, for you, madam, the door.
if she's not at least a 6, chances are
You're closing the door for her.
I'm not gonna
You
be
wanted
rude.
to go in?
I'm not rude, but I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't see her, even though I did, and go about my business.
Oh my.
Whereas if she's 6 or above, I'm gonna be like, hey, I might get to meet somebody
Here
right
you
now.
go. The door.
With like most of the girl friends, the friends who are girls that I have this like running conversation with them that they hate. But it's basically that there is no male friend in your life that doesn't want to be with you. Nope. Nope. And I can prove it to you scientifically that that's true.
All right.
I can give you
Science me.
like
This is about me now.
like focus groups and
My
stuff.
podcast.
It's transitioned entirely. Come sit in the this is the bitch seat. You know, like on a motorcycle.
I get it. I
Yeah.
ride a motorcycle
I know.
actually. So.
I mean, come on back in.
Yeah, join us.
We have a lot to talk. This is going to be my first 4-hour podcast because there's 2
Welcome.
distinct things going on. I remember where we left off with you, so we're gonna hop right back into that. But we've just brought up something that I think needs to be a point of public conversation, and I think you should chime into this because
get close so
she-
it's like we're both important.
she used you as the example, and here's where I want to call BS on the whole thing. What I was saying to her
I'll
is,
move over. You can get.
I have-
Here, you're good.
he's well within frame. It's got like
no,
the
I'm
whole
saying
couch.
this is the important cushion.
Oh,
I have a foot.
why are
Okay.
you trying to get the exact same cushion?
So we're both important.
You are.
He's got a high pitch. That means he's lying.
He laughed high pitched. He's not really laughing.
This is a fake.
I'm so much you got a CSI on me. As soon as you hear the pitch, though. It means
CSI. Who died? What crime is being committed here? I heard the laugh. Ice-T comes in.
I can't.
He's not on CSI.
I miss like CSI Las Vegas. Like
Oh,
William
Las Vegas?
Peterson.
Who are you? That's
Dude.
disgusting.
What?
No, the original, fantastic. Las Vegas, awful. The guy who plays the main.
Whoa.
What's his
CSI
name?
Las Vegas is the original.
Oh, what's the bad one?
Oh.
Is it Miami?
Probably
Las
Wisconsin
Vegas.
at this point. I don't know what
no,
they
you
have.
know
It's
they have the
crazy.
intense guy who like always is taking
Yeah, that's
off his
mine.
glasses,
That's
and you're like,
David
what?
Caruso. Yeah.
What?
Jim Carrey does an amazing
does.
impersonation
I
of
bet he
that.
does.
There's a
Jim
great
Carrey's-
clip of it on YouTube.
He's insane, but he's a good guy.
No, what we were talking about though was the idea that as far as women go, what I was telling her is I have conversations with my friends who are girls, and I try to enlighten them on something that most of them fight and most of them argue with me about, and they tell me that I'm wrong, and they have yet to prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's that
But I just did.
you didn't. We're gonna work this out.
All right.
If women look at all of their male friends, there is one thing that is true about all of those male friends. And that one thing is that all of those male friends want to be with that woman. On some level. I don't know if it's 5%, I don't know if it's 95%. On some level, there's an attraction. There's something that they're feeling toward them.
You mean in a relationship or
Yeah,
interacting?
romantically, intimately, yes. Sexually, maybe sometimes it's just that simple. I don't feel about sex that way. Like, for me, sex is very connective, and so I have to
Have an emotional,
have an emotional
attachment
tie to
that's
that
not-
person for the sexual piece to crop up. And I was having a really interesting conversation with Seth about that earlier, and about how some guys' attraction to pornography isn't actually like domineering or just any of that stuff, but just that some men, and I guess I put myself in that category, enjoy women on such a broad level that to be able to see them naked, A, is awesome, and B, experiencing something, even though most of it's acting, obviously, like, to experience something and to be able to watch that, and because pornography is kind of like a team sport, sort of, in the sense that, like, the audience is kind of inside of what's happening, that's how it's designed, like, it allows you to sort of experience something with this random person,
Interesting.
but it's not objectification, it's just that you enjoy, it's art, really, it's like
a
my,
psychological, emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
More so,
Yeah.
not more so, but for some people more so
for sure.
than it is the physical, like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is an element of it, and I can't sit here and scientifically say it's not. Sure, at some point
Right.
we just want to have an orgasm, and her image, the noises, the whatever, the behavior is arousing enough that it allows us to get there, and I'm sure that's a huge part of it. But why pick her? Like, when we could
Right.
pick, two dogs humping in a whatever, like, why her? Well, because, point being,
Yeah.
off track,
Science.
that
Yeah.
women don't have
We
a
went
single
from me to
male
porn.
friend in their life.
Uh-huh.
A good male friend, someone they speak with semi-frequently, who doesn't have an attraction to or want to be with them. That is my argument. And she's saying
Defend.
that you are the example
He
in her
he
life
disagrees with that.
of somebody that doesn't want to be. And I
You're
just,
speaking for me now.
I am.
I
know
and I'm
so
just
well.
saying, although I have no intention of making a relationship awkward or anything, but I don't think that's true. I think, and it's not even a situation where I'm just like, you and I have kind of the same taste in women, and no, I think it's the fact that friendship relationships begin based on attraction. All of them. You don't talk to somebody that you're not interested in. That's true.
Are you
And-
referring to a physical attraction?
But that's
or
the
what-
thing.
what's
That's the
that
part that we never talk about. We're always just like, oh, she's really smart or she's really funny. Bullshit. If she doesn't have some physical components that at the very least make you comfortable, if not make you
Okay.
kind of excited, zero chance you're going to talk to that person. Think about the ugliest person that you can think of. There's no reason why you're going to go over there and start a conversation with them. In fact, you're probably going to try to find something to do on the other side of the room because you just don't want to occupy your space with that.
I would say you would not initiate, but if they were to initiate, I see a very high likelihood that you would still be willing to further the conversation.
Well, I think there's different scenarios in which that's applicable. Like if you're in a classroom setting where this is your partner for a project, you're not just going to be like, no. But
And necessity becomes a different conversation
Right.
because if you're paired together and if there's something both of you stand to gain out of it educationally or even musically, let's say there's somebody you're not attracted to but you guys are going to co-write an album or whatever the case may be, things like that will happen, and what you guys stand to get out of that is a good grade and thus your degree or the money from the track that you're going to do. There's some motivation other than just I want to be in this room with this person. Any other circumstance that you desire to be in a room with that person. For example, you live here, right? You probably had options. I'm guessing there was like interviews or something. There was people that were like considering moving in here, and you sat down with each of them and talked it out, and then you chose from that. Is that
Correct.
inaccurate?
To draw upon that situation, though, it should be noted that she serving as an ASL system missionary here, it's like I knew who she was.
yeah,
Like I would have language study with these guys and stuff, and then her living situation like totally crashed in Florida, and I was like, yeah, dude, just live here.
Totally fair.
So it
And
wasn't
not
for an
even-
interview basis that
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it. We've had this conversation.
we actually did have this conversation.
I
The interview
literally-
process, there's a good chance that she may have not made it, but maybe she would have. There's a good chance she would have too. I don't know.
But it even brings up a good point that even back then, like, it almost, if we take this conversation all the way back to the point of what causes you to notice somebody,
Yes.
it's not just. Do you know, I feel like I'm making a pretty solid point here.
Hmm.
There is some. For you to not have heard a word come out of their mouth, there has to be something else that made you notice them.
Okay.
And so in her case, as far as the ASL thing, I have been around it in the sense of around you guys and Madeline and Mindy back in the day, and Debbie to some degree.
Yeah,
like she would
frickin'
kind of pull me around like
good
that
old
sort of
Debbie
stuff.
Lindsay.
But for the most part, other than that, I didn't really know anything about it. But anytime I see somebody doing it, it's a visceral experience. Like just watching the emotiveness of it. So I imagine that even never having heard her say a word, like even across the room or something caught you. You've seen hundreds of people do sign language. And I'm sure a lot of them have just faded in and out of your mind and it wasn't a big deal. But some of them catch your attention. And so my argument is here that there was something special, something unique, and something that maybe deep down inside of yourself you're not interested in pursuing. Maybe you aren't going to push it, you aren't going to try to facilitate a relationship. However, the spark exists. It's there, whether you're going to do anything about it. Am I making sense?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Am I
tune
right
in
about
next
that?
time to find the answer.
Just
Goodbye.
like, we gotta go. We have plans.
You don't have to answer. This isn't a situation
Jimmy
where
Neutron clip just pops up and he's like, got a blast, and then it's over.
I'm not asking you to answer to prove my point because I even if you said no,
I will
wouldn't
definitely
buy
make
you.
the statement that I 100% think you're making sense.
Okay. And I think as much as I'll go back and forth with somebody about it, that's about as far as it gets. With even the women that I talk to, is they're like, your assertion makes sense.
Well,
I don't choose to believe it, but it does.
The thing is that I think that people, especially if you're talking to women, like it would be very hard for me to be like, oh yeah, like definitely all of my male friends want to be. Yeah, that sounds like it just doesn't come out. It doesn't work that way.
Could we all just like for a minute take a second to hate the bitch that thinks that way? That is aware
Like, you're
that all
just
of her
like,
guy
"Oh."
friends are into her, and she just is like, toss,
Yeah.
enjoys the
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
But we need to burn her at the stake.
So-
That's
Okay.
cruel.
Witchcraft.
Cruel.
But the issue is that I think people's perspective of themselves. I feel like we have this conversation a lot. That like people's perspective of themselves affect the way they view everything.
Mhm.
So my view of myself affects the way I believe people view me, and it affects the way I behave in front of people. So if I'm around people that make me feel appreciated, I behave more. I use the phrase "the grass is green where you water it." Like that's the term that I use.
I like that.
So it's like if I feel like it's very obvious that this person cares about me, then like it would make me, oh yeah, sure, of course this person likes me or whatever. But then if it's around somebody who I don't necessarily feel that, or if comments have been made that make me feel less so that way, then it's like, you know what I mean? Then it's like, oh, well then I have a really tough time believing that. But
Which is the hard part I think about dating, where it's like you can make a really good first impression. You can go on a really good first date. Things can be going really well. And you go on that second date, and you just... John Mayer has an entire song about it called My Stupid Mouth. You just say one thing
yeah.
that just turns the person off, and you're just like,
Dang it.
well, there that went.
Yeah.
And you just can't, like the interesting nature of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
How it starts, how it ends, like just all it is
Right.
almost like... It's almost like that's a science that, I don't know, can't be researched.
There's
Because
a lot of research.
attractions even come from just personal growth and things. So you may have never at one point in time cared about Gothic art, and then at one point in time you just catch a clip of a Marilyn Manson concert, and you're just totally like aroused by that, and then all of a sudden you're just black makeup and crazy about it. Like, just, it takes the smallest thing to turn your head a different direction, and all of a sudden your whole life can, like, and maybe I'm just talking from an obsessive personality, and that's how that tends to happen to me, but...
I think it's accurate, though. Largely depends, too, on what type of attraction you're referring to, like, but I think it is always changing, though. Like,
and maybe the fair thing about this whole all women's guy friends are attracted to them, the fair point to make is, on an evolutionary scale, their primate brain is probably just interested in mating with an attractive mate. Like, you're generally speaking not friends with somebody that isn't attractive to you on all levels. Physical, emotional, all of it. So, yeah, on some level, it's just kind of that instinct to want to just...
So I think the other part of it, the other half of it, from my perspective, is that from a female perspective, being told all your male friends want to be with you, and then the idea of, like, so then it's like, oh no, that's not accurate, because my perception or my
analysis.
No.
Self-diagnostic.
There's denotation and connotation. My connotation of the word. Don't laugh at me.
No, it's the... Continue what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Okay.
It's the attraction thing.
Stop
That
laughing.
something as small as you finding the word, and a good word, like, swelled my crush for you.
Oh,
Like, I was just, that small thing, I was just like, this girl is so awesome. And it just felt really, really good. And I was like, keep talking. I can't hold it in. Like,
Longer than a
jeez.
4-letter word. She could do Scrabble so good. The connotation of that, as opposed to, if the sentence was, all of your male friends on some level would mate with you, I would be like, yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
But I
That's
don't
totally
even
good.
mean it in like a good for me way. I just mean, like, I have the parts. Like, I have girl.
Yeah, but
like-
when you say that, you're referring to breasts, vagina, like,
But exactly.
parts.
No, that's
But
what
I'm saying the fact. First of all, the fact that the way you carry yourself seems to draw attention away from those things. Like, I'm a very I tend to disgust myself at how much I'll check a woman's body out, and I hope all guys are like that. But I tend to find myself focusing on breasts and legs and things like
I
that.
feel empowered as I do.
With you, I feel like, maybe unintentionally, but you tend to detract tension away from your body parts. Like, the first thing I noticed about you was your face.
Oh, I have a face.
And it's... No, you've got a very pleasant face, but continue.
Yeah, so it's just that where, like, my oh, see, it's going away.
Yeah, but there's one part that's kind of
No,
not.
you'll be okay. I'm gonna buy pillows anyways. Hey, don't block the camera from looking at me. What the?
You're in my shot!
I don't understand.
You're ruining my lighting.
You have towels on this. How is it supposed to dry if there's freaking towels, dude?
Because the towels were
Towels
absorbing
absorb
stuff.
the moisture.
Yeah, but not now, though.
It's like putting a cell phone in rice. Like, it just works. We don't understand why.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
one
saved
can
my cell phone
explain
once.
that.
I actually did
is
that, and it did work.
unexplainable science.
Yeah.
But alas, here we are.
Are you so happy with the framing? You're like, geez, Adam. It's like you went to school for this. I didn't.
Adam, we need to get more of you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'm guessing I'm right up against the frame. That's how it should be. I love how he's actually going to do... Why don't you
Yes.
turn the tripod and not the... What are you...
Hush up. I'm the director here.
I've lost control of my own show.
Right,
You never had it to begin with.
expected nothing less from this, honestly. But yeah, so I think that my like immediate opposition to such a statement is just that assertion is the word I was looking for. What is that I have very much so a lack of belief in the idea that every single person that I am friends with would connect with me on an emotional level or an intimate level
Totally.
of that nature.
And most of them wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah,
so
for
it's
sure.
it's the idea of does, you know, we're the last two people on Earth, and they're like, no thanks. Like, no, but like, you know,
Which is weird, because it would be for me, unless the emotional element was there.
You're just
I'd be
like, We
There's-
should just die.
There's no amount of closing my eyes that's gonna make me not see that you're there right now. I can't do it. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. As much fun as I'm having here. Why don't, unless Anthony, if you're fine from doing this from over there,
Oh, we can.
do I just stay there?
Just give me a minute, dude. I haven't blunked for like 3 minutes. Like,
Blunk.
I'm just like,
He hasn't
He
blunked.
doesn't blunk.
I'm cracking.
I bet this is who you. Now,
Me and my stepdad, when I was like 13 years old, we've always had this weird prideful tussle. And I was like, I'll beat you in a staring contest. He was
look
like,
at his
no, you
eyes
won't.
watering. Like
I was
he's
like,
not
I will
kidding
beat you
right
in a staring
now.
contest. We
And the
started
fans
staring
are
at each
too.
other, and I was
He's
like, dude,
doing
I
it
will
with
not back down.
Air movement.
But he also was like,
He
I won't back
hasn't
down either. So we both just start staring at each other, and it goes on to a minute, and we go to 2 minutes, and 2 minutes hits, and it's like, holy shit, here come the tears. Our eyes are both just streaming with tears. But
Okay.
because my domineering stepdad was a domineering stepdad, I was like, you know what? I will stand my ground. I will not blink. I will blink for no man. And he blunk after 5 minutes and 44 seconds. I'm gonna
He
blink.
acknowledges it as a word. Okay, he's blinking now. We're back. I need this moment to now be something emotional. I just need you to be like.
I can make myself cry on cue too, though. Like
You're already
that's a
crying,
weird
so
thing.
Like-
it's less.
Like if
Yeah,
I
I
could
can
just
too.
pow, I
It's
could
one
just
thing
summon
for
it.
just tears to be streaming. Like, can you make yourself emote? Like, does the
Oh,
whole thing happen?
No, it looks better if I just kind of like straight face sing.
Just did I cry?
Powerful, actually.
yeah, I can do that too. My dad used to say
I'm
water
Elizabeth. I can do
faucet.
stuff too.
Dad called me a water faucet. He's just mad because I got so many skills.
You know how you're about to say something and you're just like, wow, that the way that sentence is composed in your brain is creepy. Try again.
Yeah.
Good call. Usually.
I hope we get to cry together at some point.
Oh,
It would be.
that's
I
beautiful.
would really
Don't cry
enjoy
I don't cry anymore.
I don't buy that.
She cries a lot. She cries a
Have I
fuck
cried in
ton.
the last 2 weeks?
Do you want to say why you haven't
Is
cried in the last
that-
2 weeks?
Like you're
Jokes.
She's not joking. She's not joking. She's not joking.
2 weeks.
Yeah, so I got put on antidepressants, and so I don't cry anymore.
She cried all the freaking time.
I cried all the time. I
That
cried
would-
every day.
That would,
It was not every day.
I need to cry though.
Yeah, so the thing is that I feel like if I needed to, I could. Like I feel like I also feel like if I was trying to prove a point that I can cry on cue, I probably could. But before it was like if I just like sat for 5 minutes, I could just think myself into crying, and I could cry for.
I feel like I
So you
want to
take
have
5 minutes. I can do this. I can do that shit.
No,
in
I'm saying
27
before when I was
seconds.
not like crying on accident, I'd be like crying about something.
Oh.
Like I'm saying before.
I want to have a fight with your antidepressants. I want to sit down with you and I just want to talk about life, and I want to make you cry.
There's no time to
Just-
be present. Anthony loves to see me cry.
I hate seeing her cry. Not because I'm just gonna not say it. I'll just sound like a D if I say
You're gonna
it.
say not because like I care about her. It's just
It's not in like a.
it just makes him uncomfortable.
No, that's not true either.
Okay. What is it?
I'm just gonna not.
No, say it.
Anyway,
Say it.
back to the podcast.
This is a podcast.
We haven't left it.
Yeah.
None of this is getting edited out.
Maybe
Hell
I'm gonna
yeah.
if we don't quit talking about it.
We get here. The beauty of some of my superpowers in making somebody cry has to do with the fact that I have had a lot of really hard, really ugly experiences. And so most of it just comes down to I need to get them comfortable going to their own places of like pain. And that just means I have to go to my places of pain. So it's just a situation of me talking to the person, getting a feel. I also have like an instinct. I think it's a gift to be able to kind of tell.
To hurt people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have the radar that I can like see that in them. And so then I just need to figure out kind of
Oh, this will be
where
fun.
their hurt is.
Do it.
And
Poke
then I
the
can
hurt.
tell one of my stories that's like their hurt, and then it just all starts coming out.
Let's,
It's
can
the
we do
best.
this? It's like a.
You wouldn't do it anyway. You'd be attempting to refrain from crying.
No,
I feel
no,
like you would be
no.
truly vulnerable.
I'm always vulnerable. I'm always.
I feel like you would not.
Okay, but can we?
I feel like a lot
But
of,
I feel
especially
like-
on the
I feel
podcast,
like if
people do pull back. They
That's what I'm saying. I feel
Yeah.
like if it was just you two in a room, I feel like it would be successful.
oh that yeah.
But I feel like in this case, I don't
Yeah.
think it would.
It's true.
Literally just now, like right now, 2 times, if I would have started talking about it was 2 different thoughts I had. I could have started crying. In 2 different, like, thoughts.
That just came up as a part of our conversation?
No, like, it wasn't about that. It was just,
Oh.
like, thinking about crying and thinking about the fact that I haven't cried in
Oh.
the past 2
And
weeks.
then you thought about the
And then I
last
was-
time you
Not the
cried?
last, no, it was just, like, what are things that make me cry? Like, what are, yeah,
Puppies.
what?
Puppies.
No, I don't cry for puppies.
Dead puppies.
No.
Moments in movies for me is what does it.
Oh,
Like,
so
I just,
Sometimes they
ugh.
So I cry, yeah, I cry for movies for sure. But I mean, just like life, like thinking about experiences that I've had. So I went to therapy a while ago for the first time. I'd never been to therapy before, and it was really weird to be validated so intensely. I've never been validated that intensely, and so I would talk about a story or something that happened, and the therapist would be like, "Wow, that's hard. That's hard to go through," and I was just like, "I guess so." Like, I don't
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
thinking of things like that where I'm like, oh yeah, like little, because it's like little me. I feel bad for little me.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, she didn't know. She doesn't, she's confused. That's sad.
You know, the weird thing is that my trust issues are so deep that I can do therapy. I can go and I can participate and I can get something out of it. Therapists can point me in certain directions or give me certain guidance, and it can really influence me. But their validation never hits me like that because I just can't get away from the fact that they're being paid to be there.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh, it doesn't mean anything to me. Like,
Oh,
my,
man, that's
my
weird.
trust can't sink in.
Yeah.
However, the last girl, well,
A girl.
a few girls ago,
Yeah.
Like the second time we ever spoke on the phone, we hadn't even physically met in person yet, I knew I was in love with this girl.
Beautiful.
And it was just because the way I described it to her is it's like my whole life I've been trying to connect with people. And I will give them algebra, emotionally speaking, and they'll give me back arithmetic. Just math, just basic whatever math. And so those connections just don't ever happen. And it's really, really hurtful for me. It just swells my trust issue of just like, all right, nobody gives a shit, fine, who cares? And with her, it was one of the first times in like my
No, it's 'cause a lot of
intellectual
people don't know
memory
how to do
that like I
algebra.
gave her algebra and she gave me back calculus,
But-
where she was like paying attention so closely to what I said and speaking to it, like digging deeper down into it. And I just didn't even have the power, even though, circumstantially speaking, I was yelling at myself after I got off the phone with her and after I was just like, I'm in love with this girl. Because I'm like, this is stupid on a few levels for you to do this. But some piece of me was just took the wheel from all the other parts of my brain that wanted to just go somewhere else and be like, then you guys are just going to have to beat me up if this fails because I can't not pursue something like this. I can't not know that this is out here and live the rest of my life without having, like, the Notebook just done everything that I freaking could
Yeah.
to make that happen.
Tried. Yep, I'm the same way. Yeah, no, something that, so, continuing with that metaphor, the idea that, like, not everybody knows algebra is the idea. So, it's not that you give somebody algebra and they're like, oh, I don't want to put in the effort that it would take to also provide
Feels
this.
like that, though.
But the reality is that some people lack the emotional development to know what to do with that.
Help me understand how to connect to those people.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so
Good
hard.
answer, but
Like-
can you give me more than that? Or is it just that you're in the same spot that I'm in where you've been living with it too and you don't have an answer? It just
So
sucks.
for me, I've recently, Anthony thought it was a harsh thing to say. But recently, I've just kind of been more upfront. Like we have a roommate named Kristen, and she is great. She's fantastic. She was not taught emotional maturity from her whatever mentors as a child. And so she has this thing where she pretends a lot. She pretends that she's okay, she pretends whatever and so when I first moved in, she did not like me. She didn't like the place that I held in this house. But she wouldn't say anything or do anything. She was just odd and off. And recently we had a conversation, well, maybe like a month or two ago at this point, had a conversation where I was like, Kristen, I have no interest in knowing fake you. I don't want to know her. I don't care to talk to her. If that's who you want to be with me, then we don't need to talk. But if you want to be you, like, and you are willing to be vulnerable and willing to open up, and I understand that it's a process. I understand that it's not just going to be tomorrow you say everything, but like, if that's where you want to be, like, I want that. And I definitely caught her off guard, like, and in hindsight, I can, like, understand maybe that sounds rude, but, like, just being more upfront with people, because on my mission, all of my companions were people that were struggling with things, struggling with personal, like, self-esteem issues or whatever, and so just being like, I don't ask anything from you but to be you. Whoever you are, that's who I want you to be. And so when people feel confident that they are loved unconditionally, as opposed to I love you for doing all these things, or I love you because you are this and this, and if you weren't this, I wouldn't love you. That's not safe. That's not comfortable. That's not happy. But if you give somebody a space where you're like, yeah, just live, and I will love you for that, people will surprise you every time. I've never met a person that wasn't like, didn't have more. I've met people that weren't willing to give me more, but I've never met a person that didn't have more.
Maybe I don't consider myself, back to the whole, like, me not thinking I'm smart thing, maybe I don't consider myself intelligent enough to be able to tell the difference. If someone does not display more to me, I assume that there isn't more, and not that they're just withholding it. Or if I get an instinct that they're withholding it, then I get resentful, then I get bitter, and then I really withdraw from them, and I'm just like, well...
I wouldn't say that's intelligence, I would say that's scars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely more so a scar, and because I have crazy trust issues. I have crazy issues with feeling like it's a lot easier for me to be in the position of me telling someone else, I love you unconditionally. I feel very confident and comfortable telling someone that. Someone telling me, I love you unconditionally? No, you don't. No, you don't. There's no way. If you knew this and this and this and this and this, then you wouldn't. And then...
I wonder what you... Because I feel like that phraseology has really become in vogue as far as talking about loving people unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And my trust issues have caused me to really say, but what does that mean? And is that real? And I start, to the point that I start playing scenarios in my head where I'm like, at what point would that love cease? What member of their family would that person have to murder for them to be like, well, I don't love you anymore, like, it's over. Like, there's got to be some place, some line in the sand where it's like, if you cross this, yeah, you're no longer important to me.
So I think for me, it's that my understanding of my perspective on unconditional love is that I have beliefs about Anthony. I have a schema of beliefs about him. And he's allowed to... Schema, is that the word that you were smiling at?
I've never even heard that word before, and I'm just... you're making me happy in the best ways right now.
So he's allowed to surprise me, but there's also, like... So we're talking... The other day we had a conversation about lying. And, like, I know that Anthony's not going to lie to me. I believe that. And so if he were to lie to me, that would affect it would shift that schema, and it would affect the way my love, and it's not to say that it's because that's a negative thing. So if we're talking about, like, who would you have to murder? Like, well, obviously the person that I thought I loved unconditionally is not who you are. And so then it no longer applies.
Well, did that to me, and
Is
please correct me if I'm saying this wrong, isn't unconditional only in the sense that the love that you have extended to that human is based on who they currently are. And the minute that shifts,
so that's
your love then needs to be completely reevaluated and has the capacity to diminish, lessen, whatever.
Right. So which is why I said, like, specifically, like, Anthony, but anyone, like, they're allowed to grow and surprise me and whatever. But it's also to say, like, so for example, I was in a relationship for 5 years. We broke up 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
That sucks.
Yeah, so do I love him right now? Yeah. I will love him forever.
But love him like, sure, I'll come move a couch, or love him like, yeah, I will lay with you as with your head upon my breast with your tears running down if you have a bad day. Like, I'm willing to absorb, like, that. There's two different...
So the thing is that, like, I've been through... He and I went through a lot, and that love was ever prevalent throughout those experiences, because it wasn't... And been through a lot, meaning he did crappy stuff. Like, it was still just like, but I'm choosing to... Whatever is at the core of you, I identify with, and I think that people are so desperate to feel safe, to feel like I'm allowed to make mistakes, I'm allowed to whatever, and there's something fundamental about me that has value that cannot be taken away. And so whenever you meet someone and you can give them that, and like, not that I'm perfect at loving people, like I struggle with specific personality types or whatever, as we all do, but like, whenever you can show someone like, no, you're allowed to have a bad day, you're allowed to have, you're allowed to do whatever, and I will still be here and think you're the coolest, like, that's... People don't have that. People, like, that's just not something you're given that often. And when you feel that, people become such a better version of themselves.
Yeah. Totally.
So, which is why I was saying, like, it's a lot easier for me to be on that side of it and to be like, oh, I have so much to give to someone or anyone that's like, no, I want you to be you, and I want to just like nurture this little seed and watch it grow. Like, that's so. Yeah. But then the idea that would be the way someone views me is unfathomable. Like, that anyone in the world would be like, no, you just get to be you, and that's enough. Like, oh, what? No, that doesn't exist.
I want to get to the point, and we won't. I mean, there's just not enough time in our little sphere of being in each other's presence, but I want to get to the point with you that you described way earlier, where people get to a point with you where they say, oh, she's like this all the time. Like that moment where the switch flips and where what was once so cute and so endearing and so attractive then becomes burdensome or whatever. I want to feel that because that sounds weird. Partly because I guess it's one of those weird things where, like, when you look at what you are currently feeling, and you have that moment where you're just like, I can't even fathom being annoyed.
No, I'm exhausting. I'm exhausting to be around all the time. His endurance of, like, putting up with who I am as a person is incredible.
No.
Yeah. We spend way too much time together for how exhausting I am as a person.
Which speaks a lot about Anthony. Like,
no.
Not just in his own sense to be able to endure people, but in the quality of human that he would prefer to be around. Like, that speaks a lot to you, that Anthony spends all that time willingly around you, because Anthony's a very specific human being, and he...
You're really good at just blocking out this. Sometimes I'll say something.
But he can't. If you think about it, Anthony can't block anything out. With his upbringing and stuff, he can't block it out. He logs and categorizes everything about everyone. So if you're on Anthony's good side...
Why do you know that? Why do you say that? What makes you say that, my upbringing? Because
of some ways that you and I have a lot in common that we've just never talked about, because you and I don't talk about a lot of stuff like that. Or just haven't up to this point, I guess. We just geek out more on, like, music, or we've talked about,
Do you mean...
I guess I knew you in a day where you were in another life, so that was what we talked about. But
do you mean just, like, taking social inventory?
Yeah, but aggressively. Like, when it comes to trust issues, which a situation of a single mom, stepdads, etc., like, the level of high alert that you are on with people is different than other humans. And so, because I know that about you, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know you so well that I know what all the categories are. I know how aggressively you inventory people, but I have a sense from my own experiences of what I do and how I do that to people, and so I know I see that in you, which is why just the fact that, like, you have continued to initiate our relationship, like, I think, if you put out a song or you send me an email with a song or something like that, I'm always eager to respond to it because I want to encourage you to keep doing that because I love our relationship. But the fact that you have continued to do that makes me feel like I'm doing something right in life because it would be way too easy for me to exhibit to you whatever signs that would cause you to say, nah, I don't need to keep fucking with this guy. Like, but I haven't yet. And that makes me think, okay, you're still authentic. You're still that person. You're not hiding. You're not hiding. You're letting yourself be who you are at all times in social media platforms, wherever. Like, I'm not, just trying to impress people. I'm trying to be authentic and put something real out there. And our friendship, like, lets me know our friendship validates to me that I'm being real. Because of all people that would be like, would not talk to me anymore or as often, I feel like you would allow that distance to happen because you just look for the best in people and would only prefer to surround yourself with that best. And that doesn't mean flawless, imperfect people. It means seekers. It means the ones who are trying to find answers and understanding and just out in the world, just tentacles out, just trying to understand things better. Those are the ones
You
you're
like me
looking
for my tentacles.
Oh my god. But kind of like a long running joke in this house about hentai. There's always tentacles in hentai.
I knew you only liked me for my tentacles.
I think that was beautifully illustrated, Adam.
Yeah, it was. Definitely.
And on that note, your career counselor at school, they were talking to you about careers. You said music. They said something.
Realistic.
Try something more realistic. And you were like, realistic. What happened from that point with you?
I was like, I'll become a pilot. I was like, okay, good plan. Continuing my love for music, though. Music was still my life. I got to 11th grade, 12th grade, that area. And it was time to be like, you know what, guys, it's time for us to make a band. So me and my buddies, we came together in that shed that I'm now remodeling. And we actually, sorry, I skipped one quick part, but I mean, like 7th and 8th grade, me and my buddy Matt, we would jam. We made up our own band. Crazy Niz was our name, with the AC/DC Powerbolt for S's. Crazy Niz. You can imagine that.
I can.
We had not one song, actually. We had a half of a song. And we would rehearse that half of a song together, and it was good times. He had an Orange Gretsch, classic. Live my life, hurt myself. For the pain, we are the band Craziness. I don't remember the lyrics, but it's very close to what they were. Weird stuff. Normal for that age. Anyways, high school, me and Matt get together again, make our band. We get our buddy on vocals, supposed to be on vocals. Our other buddy who's on bass, supposed to be on bass. Have our first practice. I'm like, all right, guys, I got my parts down. Let's do this. And we're like, yo, so you got vocals? He's like, well, no, I didn't really come up with anything. Like, okay, well, that's kind of weird to me that you came to our band practice without having your part down, but whatever. Other buddy comes, no bass part down, and it's like, well, what the frick is this, man? Is this what it is? All right, we'll try again next week. Come back together next week. It's the same exact thing. Nobody did anything. I wrote a couple parts, but not even I did that much. So, and then it fell apart immediately. It was just like we didn't go anywhere. We had 1.4 practices, and we're like, let's cover some songs, and that's all we did. And served a mission, came back home. Got into some solo musicians, guys who were just doing their own bands.
Okay.
And that's the first time for me. I was like, you know what? Holy frick, man! These guys did this on their own. Like,
Yeah.
They didn't need an army behind them. They didn't need to wait for their lyricist to come up with vocals, or they didn't need to wait for their bassist.
Yeah.
And that's when I was just like, I'm gonna try this.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought some recording gear from my buddy, coincidentally, who was one in the band, and I went downstairs into my basement, and almost like immediately I threw my first track together, and it was called Sonar.
Love that song.
And that song came together in a matter of hours. Like, first thing I ever really wrote down and recorded that wasn't, like, Jennifer, why'd you do those things you did? Hurt, pain. It's like, weird high school lyrics. High school lyrics are just cheesy as fuck. But Sonar came together immediately, and I threw the guitar chords down for it. I threw my own vocals down, which was a huge step for me in feeling like I'm not a singer. That's how my view was. I'm just like, I'm not a singer. Favorite band, Say Hi. I heard him, and I was like, this guy's not a singer. He's not a great singer at all. But look at him. He's freaking doing it, and I love what he's doing, and it works for me. Then I threw bass part down. I was like, I'm not a bass player, but I'm going to try this anyway. And then I recorded some program drums just from Cakewalk Program. I was like, I'm not a drummer, but here I am doing this weird shiz. What is this? And then the song came together, and I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a big amount of actually luck in just finding a song that really I connected with, and I was like, dude, I created this. I'm proud of this. Like, something that didn't sound like utter garbage for how fast it all worked out, Because if it would have been a prolonged process and I had to, like, screwed around with it for hours on end, I don't know if I would have clicked with it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just because of how immediately it all happened, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't need people. I don't need to rely on frickin' everybody just to do what I want to do. Like, why are my dreams going to be dependent upon an outside individual who essentially should have no say over my dreams one way or another, because they're mine. And now that's what I've found that I have the problem with. Actually, I've swung the pendulum has gone too far too independent to where...
So now you're bringing in musicians to form a band, and they're like, cool, I have this idea, and you're like, well, that's cute. Why don't you go
and I am
use that somewhere else, because there's a song here.
I actually am doing really better than I thought I would, because we played a show last night at Kilby Court,
2 nights ago.
and I was very open to everybody just doing their own thing, because I really like these guys I'm playing with, and I don't want to constrict them, but when it comes to recording, I probably am going to be very Nazi about it, and making sure it's done the way I want it to be, because it's like, this is kind of my baby, and I'm going to do what I want to do with it. So...
Yeah.
It does become a hindrance in that I'm less willing than most musicians to collaborate and take in other ideas and do what they want to do. I'm always willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah. It's like, that's just kind of how a pendulum goes, I suppose.
So, as far as music releases go, like, do you have some idea of what's coming next or what people should be expecting from Friendly Fellows?
There will be an album out this year.
In 2019?
Correct.
I'm marking it, sir. This is February. Clock's ticking.
There's likely going to be some rebranding going on.
Rebranding?
I think so, yeah.
When you say that in reference to a band, I think just a change of a band name.
Yeah, there'll be change of the band names.
logos, all that stuff.
Technically, we don't even have font logos right now, so it's like there will be...
Well,
that's to say there will be fonted logos.
The last... promo, the
correct.
event flyer had the
Red
skull
Checker,
on it.
They did that on their own. That was pretty cool of them to do. So,
but that insinuates that people just think that's part of your thing because of the cover of the I Can single.
And that is, the idea of a skeleton is really appealing to me. But and so I have been drawn to that concept. But I mean, I haven't.
Now you got band members, and so you're trying to think about what they might want it to look like, or is it still just your thing, and you just feel like you came out the gate weird, and you're like, let's go a different direction with this.
I think it's a mix of all of that.
Yeah?
Not so much on each of those points, but a little bit on each of those points.
Okay.
So
you do have so many stoplights in your mind. There's so many little places of approval or
accurate
that just need to be fulfilled for you.
It's accurate.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, I didn't particularly want to play at Kilby Court, but I knew my drummer did. Because I'm not big on doing shows right now. I'd much rather throw an album out to the ethers. So I just haven't been super into shows right now, but I know he is, so he's the reason we did it. Jacob wanted to throw on a show, and I was like, all right, I'm down, let's do it. So
I like that. I like being in bands with guys that know how to book shows, so all I got to do is they just come to practice, and they're like, hey, we got a show next week or whatever, and then I just show up and play the show.
Yeah.
I've never been on the front side of that where I've got to talk to venues or I got to
Yeah.
whoever and I got to book shows. I've never done that, so it's part of the reason why I play the shows that I do, which is something that I put together and I just do every week because I have no idea how to get a gig. I've never really done it, so I'm just, it's still out of
You
traction.
did, though.
I'm
You
just
did
like,
good.
if I stay out on this freaking sidewalk and if I keep playing to these crazy passerbys with my business cards, now I have CDs, so if I just do all that stuff,
dude.
like, I
That's
don't know,
cool.
at some point somebody's
That's
going to
good.
be like, hey, do you want to play over here? And I'll be like, yes!
Yeah,
I
and
really do.
I think you'll pick it up really easily. It's just like,
But the acoustic thing, too, bothers me. Not because I don't enjoy it or I don't think other people enjoy it, but then they listen to the album and they're just like, oh, there's a band. I'm like,
There's
well,
so
no,
much
there's
more
not,
than
but it's
music,
full
man.
band music.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. No, totally.
It's so annoying.
I don't like doing open mics for that reason. Like, I would much rather. To me, it doesn't do my songs justice. It's just like,
That's fair.
I don't know. No, you're exactly
The
right.
irony
All
being
you-
we're going to go play an open mic tonight, so hooray for
Exactly
us.
accurate.
Yeah.
I do need to check in a moment to make sure we are. I do need to check to make sure they're open. They're always open. I've only seen them cancel like one time.
Let it be tonight. It's so
Nice.
good.
All
It's, like, I'll play, but I'm fine listening to other people, especially you, but it's just been a day. What's this? Is this Simon?
Talking about Din Din.
Yeah.
You're
Oh.
hungry?
Yeah. Well, I didn't.
What did you eat?
4 hours ago I had a sandwich. Should we eat? Let's do it. Let's close the podcast and let's eat.
No, I didn't mean that at all.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth.
I didn't want that. I just haven't eaten.
Well, first of all,
since
we've been going
this
for
morning.
an hour and 38
Take
minutes.
away my hour and
but-
38 minutes.
Actually, I'm going to ask you this now instead of off the podcast because maybe if I get you saying it on the podcast, it'll be more of a commitment and you'll have to stick to it. I think you could carry a podcast all by yourself. I think you've just got a lot of interesting thoughts and you got a great way of expressing yourself. I think, although I think you could too, I think you enjoy kind of being the straight man and just being the guy that ideas sort of bounce off of and you can just say something snarky or quirky or funny and it just kind of keeps the energy going. I would love if you two once a month would sit down with each other for like an hour plus and just record a podcast. And I would love to, like, feature that. Like, have that once a month. One of the episodes is just you guys here, just chatting it up about whatever. Is that crazy? Would you guys be interested in doing something like that?
You're the boss.
Why is he the boss?
That's just.
Yeah.
It's my.
Why am I the
It's
boss?
it's the joke.
This is-
I'm the mastermind behind it, but everybody views
We
it.
can't
as like
encourage the
me, so-
patriarchy. What's going on here
It
right
makes
now?
the choices, and then I'm the.
Are you saying you are all in, but you don't want to
Yeah.
speak
I mean, I'm right. Yeah,
on
I'm
his
not gonna
behalf? Is that what you were saying?
decide
Okay.
for Anthony is busier. I mean, we have the YouTube thing.
Which is part of why I started with once a month. I mean, I'd love to just start like a channel and have you guys just be one of the podcasts on it. But I realized that would take a lot more of your time. But I figure, an hour to 2 hours a month is.
I can tell you I would be
Doable.
willing to at least give it a go for once and see how it goes.
Okay.
To see if we're just
Done.
like dry 70-year-olds who are just dry. And
I will ask
Dry
you.
things
We'll put you down for this within the month of March. Just sometime in the month of March. Just get it done. Just sit down with a couple of mics or a phone or whatever. Record a 1 to 2 hour podcast. Email it to me. And then if you hate it, we'll never do it again. But if you have a good time, then we'll keep going. Sound like fun? I'm so
I can
excited.
do this. Yeah, hype yourself up.
I
I think I can talk to Elizabeth for an hour. I think I can.
Just do it like while I'm eating dinner or something. That
Yeah.
distracted.
That's. I'm fine
Oh
with
man,
that.
we could call it Anthony Eats, and you'll just be eating, and I'll just be talking to you.
I could change my last name.
She's
to
good at
Bourdain.
this.
She's good at
I
it.
like it. That's a really funny idea.
Well, the coincidental thing is, it's like
Anthony Eats, Elizabeth Talks.
Yeah.
I usually take an hour
There's
to
the
eat
show.
my food.
He takes
I'm
so
literally
long
the
to
slowest eater that I know.
Dude. It writes itself. Come on.
Yeah.
Because in the moments where you stop eating to talk,
Oh, and then you can talk about how good my food is, and then I'll get famous.
And I could change my last name to Bourdain, and I would pick up all of his fans that he had.
Oh,
They would be like, he never
perfect. Perfect. To
I
be
think
like,
they-
he never left.
I think they figured out pretty quick that you're not the
He's in a
guy.
cave, dude. He's in a cave.
You think?
Anthony Bourdain's in the cave with
He's just one of those crazies. He's like, I gotta
Who do you
fake my
think's
own death.
cooking for $2, dude?
He's Anthony Bourdain has now, 20 years later, realized nobody's cooking for Tupac. Who's gonna cook for Tupac? I gotta go.
Oh, I can't even. Okay, so Instagram and Facebook, you're at Friendly Fellows.
Yep, Friendly Fellows.
Again, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.
iTunes.
I don't know. I haven't even figured out how to get on like Pandora and stuff yet, but
Dad's
it's out there.
under the bed.
Friendly Fellows. The song's called "I Can." It's so great. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll twist your arm into just like for funsies publishing Sonar as is. You can just call it a demo in brackets or whatever, so you don't have to feel like constrained to it, and people can hear how great that is.
I think that it will become a song. It will see fruition because
Yeah.
it being my first song ever created, it's like if people don't like it, well, frick it. Like frick you guys.
Frick you guys.
My
and
track
you
was
frickin'
happy
pricks.
because it's the first thing I ever wrote.
And if you
Consequences.
if you live in Utah, then you're fortunate because you can physically come see Anthony play in the few times that they actually do go
In
out
the
and play
flesh.
concerts. So follow him in all those social media places, and he can tell you where they're at.
Find us at the Pigpen, April 14th, our next show.
Pigpen, April 14th. Woo! Friendly Fellows. And this podcast, once a month, we're going to have Anthony
As a
Eats
trial.
Elizabeth Talks.
Literally once a month.
Once,
time
yes.
in 1 month.
Yes, tune into the
Depending on how it
podcast in
goes.
March for the first and possibly only installment of
Perhaps.
this new fun show. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Signing off.
See, and then I get to go shut down 2 different things now because now there's 2 things.
And that's a wrap.
Oh my goodness. Someday there's going to be a YouTube channel with all this nonsense on it. What am I going to... Oh, what happened?